It's never a waste of time to make time for the truth. A moment spent listening and paying attention to the truth can change your life. So let's take a moment for the truth. Psalm 119, 5 and 6 says, "Oh, that my ways may be established, to keep your statutes, that I will not be ashamed when I look at all your commandments." Many talk about God as to what he desires or what he directs. It changes altogether when it's personal. It's like talking about the problems of the world and then move into the area where it's the problems within myself. It's not as easy to brush off or talk about it in abstract terms. The same could be said when it comes to prayer. We might pray in public, either in a small or a large group. But prayer changes when it's in a silent place where it's just you alone talking to God. It gets very personal and even uncomfortable. The psalmist has reached just such a point. In these two verses, we see something very akin to a journal or a prayer. It begins with a short English word, oh. This single word in the original language only appears twice in the Old Testament. It denotes a sigh and desire that sort of breathes itself out in the original language. In the English, we might like to say, it would be like saying, "Oh, would that I," and then you fill in the blank. Therefore, to fill it out in this verse, a writer could say, "Oh, would that I could be steadfast, faithful, firm in keeping your statutes." Have you ever thought or prayed anything like that before? I'd venture to say that an honest remembrance of your walk with God you'd have to admit that it happens more often than you care to recall. I know it's true in my case. Verse 6 then lays it out plainly. Then I will not be ashamed. That's what the writer is admitting. What failure creates, success avoids. Shame. The writer Thomas Horn said it well. Shame is the fruit of sin. Confidence is the effect of righteousness. I don't know about you, but I would prefer the latter of the two. Shame hurts and pains my heart. It silences the still voice of God's pleasure. But I'm reminded of God's grace at work in the lives of the flawed saints of God. The only reason it's a subject at all is because we acknowledge our failure in sin in the light of God's command. I was reminded about the difference between a guilty conscience as against a tender conscience. Thomas Merton says, one is the merit of the fruit of sin, that is a guilty conscience, and the other, a tender conscience, is an act of grace. What would happen if it didn't bother you to sin? Where would you be then? What sort of person would you be if you didn't care? Do you even want to imagine such a life? I hope your heart says no to each of those questions. As God's children, we have been given a conscience made tender by his grace. And in that grace, we can take our sin to the place of mercy. And it moves us to desire to walk in all the ways of God. May we always take a quick moment to whisper the heart prayer when we fail him, so that we can encounter his grace and desire to live better. And then thank him for both. Now that is a moment that can truly matter. Thanks for watching and listening to Truth Matters Moment. Also, don't forget to look for our weekly podcast called Truth Matters. It comes out every Wednesday. Catch you later.